Is everyone having a good time? I called out over the cheerful buzz of conversation, raising my champagne flute. A chorus of affirmative responses echoed around our backyard, which had been transformed into an enchanting engagement party venue with string lights, flowers, and sheer white fabric draped from tree to tree. My fiancé James squeezed my hand, his smile radiating such genuine happiness that I felt my heart swell. After 5 years together, we were finally celebrating our engagement with our closest friends and family. Everything was perfect: the weather, the decorations, the food, and most importantly, the man standing beside me. "I'd like to make a toast," James announced, his deep voice commanding attention without effort. "To my beautiful fiancée, Olivia. You've made me the happiest man alive by saying yes. Here's to our future together." Glasses clinked, and warmth spread through my chest. I looked around at the smiling faces of my college roommates who had watched our relationship blossom from the beginning, James's boisterous family who had welcomed me with open arms, my father standing proudly near the refreshment table, and even my younger sister Melissa, who had flown in from Chicago with her boyfriend of 6 months. The only face not beaming was my mother's. She stood slightly apart from the others, her lips pressed into a thin line as she surveyed the gathering. Something about her expression made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling aside. Today was about celebration, not about navigating the complex relationship I'd always had with my mother. "Olivia, can I speak with you for a moment?" My mother's voice cut through my thoughts. She had approached without my noticing, and now stood with her arms crossed tightly over her chest. "Of course, Mom. Is everything okay?" I asked, already feeling tension creep into my shoulders. "Let's step inside," she replied, turning toward the house without waiting for my response. I threw James an apologetic glance and followed her into the kitchen, where the sounds of the party became muffled. My mother turned to face me, and I was struck by how much older she looked under the harsh kitchen lights lines around her mouth that hadn't been there a year ago, a certain tiredness in her eyes. "Melissa told me about her engagement," she said without preamble. I blinked in surprise. "What? When did this happen?" "Last night. That's why she brought Tyler along. They're planning to announce it after your party, so as not to steal your thunder." The way she said it suggested she thought this was an extraordinary act of generosity on my sister's part. "That's wonderful news," I said cautiously, wondering where this conversation was heading. "The thing is," my mother continued, her voice taking on that familiar tone that always preceded a request I wouldn't like, "they want to get married quickly, in 3 months. "That's fast," I remarked, leaning against the counter. "They've only been dating for. When it's right, it's right." My mother cut me off. "But they're having some financial difficulties. Tyler just started his new job, and Melissa's gallery isn't turning a profit yet." A cold feeling began to spread in my stomach. "Mom, what are you saying? I know about your wedding fund. Olivia, the $45,000 you've been saving since you started working." The cold feeling intensified. "Yes, for my wedding. James and I are planning to get married next year." My mother waved her hand dismissively. "You and James both have good jobs. You can save up again. Melissa needs this now." I stared at her, momentarily speechless. Was she really asking me to give my sister my entire wedding fund? Money I had carefully saved for 8 years, putting aside bonuses and tax returns, working overtime, and living frugally while my friends splurged on vacations and designer clothes? "Mom, I can't do that," I finally said, my voice steady despite the storm brewing inside me. "That money represents years of hard work and sacrifice. Don't be selfish, Olivia. Your sister has always had less than you. This is your chance to help her." The unfairness of her request hit me like a physical blow. Less than me? I worked 3 jobs through college. I lived in a tiny studio apartment for years to save money. Melissa chose to pursue art without a backup plan. That was her choice. My mother's face hardened. "So you won't help your own sister?" I didn't say that. I could give her some money as a wedding gift, maybe $5,000, but not my entire fund. That's not enough, and you know it. What about family loyalty? Loyalty goes both ways, Mom. The kitchen door swung open, and Melissa entered, followed by her boyfriend Tyler. from the expectant look on their faces. I could tell they had been waiting for this conversation to happen. "So did you ask her?" Melissa directed the question at our mother, not even looking at me. "She's being difficult," my mother replied. Anger flared inside me. "Difficult? Is that what you call refusing to hand over my life savings on demand?" "It's not like that, Liv." Melissa finally addressed me directly. "We just need a little help to get started. You've always been the responsible one with money." "Which is exactly why I'm not giving away," I retorted, "and I'm sorry, but this is completely inappropriate. You're ambushing me at my engagement party." "We thought you want to help," Tyler chimed in, his arm around Melissa's waist. "Family helping family and all that." Before I could respond, James appeared in the doorway, concern evident on his face. "Everything okay in here?" "People are wondering where the guest of honor went." "Everything's fine," I said, moving toward him. "We were just having a family discussion that should probably wait for another time." "No, let's settle this now," my mother insisted, grabbing my arm to stop me. "Tell her, James. Tell Olivia that she should help her sister." James looked confused. "Help with what?" "They wanted to give Melissa my entire wedding fund," I explained, watching his expression shift from confusion to disbelief. "The whole $45,000? But we've been planning to use that for our wedding next year," he said. "They can still have a wedding," my mother insisted, "just not as extravagant as they were planning. Melissa needs this money now." James's expression hardened slightly. "With all due respect, Mrs. Chun, that's Olivia's money that she worked incredibly hard to save. It's not fair to expect her to give it up." "Stay out of this," my mother snapped. "This is family business." "I'm about to become family," James replied calmly. I took a deep breath. "Let's go back to the party. We can discuss this another time when emotions aren't running so high." I turned to leave, but my mother grabbed my arm again, harder this time. "You've always been the selfish one, Olivia, always thinking about yourself." The injustice of her words stung. "That's not true, and you know it." "It is true," Melissa joined in. "You've always had everything: the good grades, the prestigious job, the perfect boyfriend. Would it kill you to let me have something for once?" "This isn't about letting you have something," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is about respecting boundaries and not feeling entitled to something I work for." "Fine," my mother said, her voice cold. "Let's go back to the party. But think about what kind of person refuses to help her own sister." She pushed past me toward the door, but I couldn't let her have the last word. Not this time. "And what kind of mother plays favorites so blatantly?" I called after her. She stopped in her tracks and turned slowly. The kitchen fell silent, tension crackling in the air. Then, without warning, she crossed the space between us and slapped me hard across the face. The sound echoed in the quiet kitchen. My cheeks stung, but the emotional pain far outweighed the physical. I stared at my mother in shock, unable to process what had just happened. James moved immediately to my side, his arm protectively around my shoulders. "That's enough," he said firmly. "I think you should leave." My mother looked momentarily stunned by her own action, but she quickly recovered. "This is what happens when you raise an ungrateful child," she said to no one in particular. "Come on, Melissa. We're leaving." As they filed out, I stood frozen in place, my hand pressed against my burning cheek, wondering how my perfect engagement celebration had shattered so completely in just 15 minutes. Little did I know that this painful moment would set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately transform my understanding of family, forgiveness, and my own strength in ways I could never have imagined. I had always been the responsible one. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Seattle, I learned early on that security came from hard work and careful planning. My father, a high school math teacher, instilled in me the importance of financial independence. "Never rely on anyone else for your security," he would tell me. "Build your own safety net." My mother, on the other hand, had grown up wealthy but lost everything when her parents disowned her for marrying my father against their wishes. Perhaps that's why she was always chasing a lifestyle she'd lost, buying things we couldn't afford, and encouraging Melissa's artistic pursuits despite their impracticality. Melissa was 7 years younger than me, born when my parents' marriage was already showing cracks. She became the family peacemaker, the golden child whose achievements, no matter how small, were celebrated extravagantly. My academic scholarships and job promotions were acknowledged with nod, while Melissa's participation in a local art show warranted a family dinner. I never resented my sister for this. How could I? She was just a child navigating our parents' expectations just as I was. But I did resent the uneven treatment, the implicit message that I needed to be self-sufficient while Melissa needed support. After graduating college with honors, I landed a job at a tech company, starting in customer service and working my way up to project manager. I lived frugally, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates and bringing lunch from home when colleagues ordered delivery. Every month, I transferred a set amount to my wedding fund savings account, dreaming of the day I would celebrate with someone I loved. I met James at a friend's barbecue 4 years after college. He was charming, intelligent, and shared my values about money and planning for the future. As an architectural engineer, he understood the satisfaction of building something solid and lasting. Our relationship developed naturally, with none of the drama I observed in my friends' romantic lives. When he proposed last winter, during a weekend trip to a mountain cabin, I knew without a doubt that he was the right person. We agreed to a year-long engagement, giving us time to plan the wedding we had both dreamed of, not extravagant, but beautiful and meaningful, with all our loved ones present. My $45,000 wedding fund would cover most of the expenses, with James contributing an equal amount. We had already reserved a venue, a restored historic building with panoramic views of Puget Sound, put down deposits with photographer and caterer, and I had even found my dress, a flowing off-white gown that made me feel like the best version of myself. All those plans now seemed to hang in the balance as I sat on our back porch after the last of the engagement party guests had left, holding a cold compress to my still stinging cheek. "I still can't believe she hit you," James said, passing me a cup of chamomile tea. "Has that ever happened before?" I shook my head. "Never. She's been critical, manipulative even, but never physically violent." I sipped the tea, letting its warmth soothe me. I keep replaying it in my mind, wondering if I could have handled things differently. James took my free hand. "You did nothing wrong, Liv. Nothing. Their request was completely unreasonable, and your mother's reaction was inexcusable. I know that rationally. But emotionally I trailed off, unable to articulate the complex tangle of feelings inside me. Betrayal, guilt, anger, and beneath it all, a deep sadness for what my family relationship had become. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. It was my father. "Dad." I answered, my voice breaking slightly. "Olivia, I just dropped your mother and sister off at their hotel. I wanted to check on you." "I'm okay," I lied. "No, you're not. What your mother did was wrong. I want you to know that." His words released something inside me, and tears began to flow. Why does she always take Melissa's side? Why am I never enough? My father sighed heavily. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Your mother, she has her own demons to battle. But that doesn't excuse what happened tonight. Are you going back to the hotel?" "No. I'm checking into a different place tonight. I need some time to think." There was a pause. "I'm proud of you, Olivia, for standing your ground, for building a life with someone who respects and supports you." After we hung up, I looked at James. "My dad's staying somewhere else tonight." "Good for him," James said. "He needs to show your mother that her behavior has consequences." I nodded, but a new worry surfaced. What if this ruins our wedding? What if they're still not speaking to each other next year? What if my mother refuses to come? James pulled me into a gentle embrace. "Then we'll deal with that if it happens. Our wedding is about us making a commitment to each other, not about family drama." But as I tried to fall asleep that night, I couldn't shake the image of my mother's face just before she slapped me, not just anger, but something else. Pain? Fear? Whatever it was. It suggested that there was more to the situation than a simple request for money. The next morning, I awoke to multiple missed calls from Melissa and one text message. "We need to talk. Alone. Meet me at Cascade Coffee at 10. James was hesitant about me going. "After what happened yesterday. Do you really think that's a good idea?" "I need to understand what's going on," I replied. Something doesn't add up. Then I'm coming with you. I shook my head. She wants to meet alone. I think she might open up more if it's just us. At least stay in a public place, he conceded. When I arrived at the coffee shop, Melissa was already there, hunched over a large mug, looking like she hadn't slept. Her usual stylish appearance was replaced by a thrown-together-look hair in a messy bun, minimal makeup, wrinkled clothes. "You came," she said as I sat down across from her. "Of course I came. You're still my sister." She looked down at her coffee. "I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to speak to me again. I'm angry, Melissa, and hurt, but I still love you." She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I need to tell you something, and it's not easy. I'm listening. Tyler and I aren't really engaged." I blinked in surprise. "What?" "It was Mom's idea. She thought if we announced an engagement and rushed wedding plans, you'd be more likely to help financially." I sat back, stunned. So this was all manipulation? To get my money? Melissa winced. "It sounds terrible when you say it like that." "Because it is terrible, Melissa. Do you have any idea how much that money means to me? How hard I work for it?" "I do know," she said quietly. "That's partly why I'm here. I couldn't sleep last night, knowing what we tried to do to you." She took a deep breath. "But there's more. More than a fake engagement to scam me out of my savings. Mom's in trouble, Liv. Serious financial trouble." I felt a chill run through me. "What kind of trouble?" "She's been gambling. For years. Dad doesn't know the extent of it. She's maxed out all their credit cards, taken out loans. The house is at risk of foreclosure." The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Our childhood home, the place where I had learned to ride a bike in the driveway, where we had celebrated holidays and birthdays, where my father still graded papers at the kitchen table every evening. "How much does she owe?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "About $70,000. I gasped, and she thought my wedding fund would solve this. Not solve it, but make a significant dent. Buy some time. Melissa reached across the table for my hand. I'm not defending her. What we did was wrong. But she's desperate. Why didn't she just tell me the truth? Why this elaborate scheme? Pride, shame, and Melissa hesitated. And what? I pressed. She didn't think you'd help if you knew the real reason. She thought you'd just lecture her about responsibility. The accusation stung, partly because there was some truth to it. I would have been angry, disappointed in my mother's choices. But would I have refused to help entirely? Does Dad really not know? He knows there are money problems, but he thinks it's just poor budgeting, not addiction. Mom's been intercept bills, making minimum payments to keep things afloat. I pushed my untouched coffee away, my appetite gone. What about you? How involved are you in this? I lent her money a few times before I realized how bad it was. Tyler isn't even my boyfriend. He's an actor friend who agreed to play along for a cut. She looked genuinely ashamed. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I got caught up in Mom's desperation. I sat in silence, processing this flood of new information. My mother gambling addict. My sister accomplice to a con. My family not what I had believed it to be. What happens now? I finally asked. I don't know. Mom's meeting with a credit counselor tomorrow. I told her I won't be part of any more schemes. Melissa wiped away a tear. I also told her she needs to apologize to you, but I'm not sure she's ready to admit how wrong she was. I thought about my father, about how devastated he would be when he discovered the extent of my mother's deception, about the home they might lose, about the years of secrets and lies. I need time to think, I said. Standing up, this is a lot. I understand. Just know that I am truly sorry. And at appearances, I do love you, sis. As I walked back to my car, my mind raced with conflicting emotions. Anger at the betrayal, sympathy for my mother's addiction, concern for my father, and underneath it all, a question that kept repeating. What was the right thing to do now? For 3 days, I grappled with what Melissa had revealed. I told James everything, and we spent hours discussing the options, weighing moral obligations against practical considerations. It's your money, James emphasized. You worked for it. You saved it. You planned for our future with it. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty about that. I know, I agreed, but if they lose the house, that would be terrible. But it wouldn't be your fault. Your mother made her choices. What about my dad? He didn't choose this. James sighed. That's the hardest part. He's innocent in all this. On the fourth day, I received a text from my father asking if we could meet for lunch. We arranged to meet at a quiet restaurant near his school. He looked tired when he arrived, the lines on his face deeper than I remembered. "Thank you for meeting me," he said as we sat down. "Of course, Dad. How are you holding up?" He gave a sad smile. "I've been better. Your mother and we've had some difficult conversations." "She told you?" "About the gambling." He nodded, looking surprised. "Melissa told you?" "Yes, after the engagement party." "Dad, why didn't you reach out earlier, before things got so bad?" "I didn't know the extent of it until this week. I knew we were having money problems, bills I didn't recognize, mysterious cash withdrawals, but I had no idea how deep it went." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "I feel like such a fool." "You're not a fool. Mom kept us hidden on purpose. Still, we've been married for 35 years. I should have seen the signs." The server came to take our orders, giving me a moment to collect my thoughts. "What happens now?" I asked after the server left. "Your mother has agreed to enter a treatment program for gambling addiction. We're looking at options to restructure our debt." And he hesitated. "We're putting the house on the market." My heart sank. "Oh, Dad, it's too much house for us anyway, with both you girls gone. We can downsize, start fresh." He attempted a brave smile that didn't reach his eyes. "And what about you and Mom? After what happened at the engagement party, I won't lie to you, Olivia. I was furious with her. For hitting you, for the deception, for putting our family at risk. But she's not well. Addiction is a disease. That doesn't excuse what she did." "No, it doesn't. But understanding helps me find a path to forgiveness. We have a lot of work ahead of us, probably years of rebuilding trust. But 40 years together isn't something I'm willing to throw away without trying." I nodded, respecting his decision even as I wondered if I could find the same capacity for forgiveness within myself. "There's one more thing," my father said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box and placed it on the table between us. "This was your grandmother's. I always planned to give it to you when you got engaged, but with everything that happened..." He pushed the box toward me. I opened it to find a delicate platinum ring with single pearls surrounded by tiny diamonds. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "Your grandmother gave it to me before she died. Made me promise it would go to you. She said you reminded her of herself, practical, determined, with a good heart." "I wish I had known her better," I said, slipping the ring onto my right hand, where it fit perfectly. "She would have been so proud of the woman you've become." "As am I." He covered my hand with his. "Whatever you decide about the wedding fund, know that I support you. No parent should ever ask their child to sacrifice their dreams to fix the parent's mistakes." His words hung between us, laden with unspoken meaning. In that moment, I knew what I needed to do, not out of obligation or guilt, but from a place of love and compassion that surprised even me. The following weekend, I asked my parents and Melissa to meet James and me at our apartment. I had spent days preparing for this conversation, working through my feelings with James and a therapist. I had started seeing the process of family trauma. They arrived looking apprehensive, my mother especially. The vibrant, confident woman I had known all my life seemed diminished somehow, her shoulders hunched as if carrying a physical burden. "Thank you for coming," I said, gesturing them toward the living room where I had arranged chairs in a circle. No barriers, no hiding behind furniture. This needed to be an honest conversation. "Before we start," my mother said, her voice uncharacteristically timid, "I need to apologize. What I did at your engagement party was unforgivable. Hitting you," her voice broke. "I've never been so ashamed of myself." I nodded, acknowledging her words without immediately offering absolution. We have a lot to discuss today, and that's definitely part of it. Once everyone was seated, I took a deep breath. I've asked you here because we need to clear the air as a family. What happened at the engagement party was just the culmination of patterns that have existed for years. Patterns? My father asked. Unequal treatment, unspoken expectations, secrets and manipulations. I looked directly at my mother. Mom, for years you favored Melissa, expected me to be self-sufficient while sheltering her from consequences. You've hidden your gambling addiction from all of us, putting the family's security at risk. My mother flinched but didn't deny my words. Melissa, I continued, turning to my sister. You've been complicit in Mom's schemes, taking advantage of the favoritism and allowing it to continue because it benefited you. Melissa looked down at her hands. I know. And Dad, I said gently, you've been a wonderful father in many ways, but you've enabled Mom's behavior by looking the other way, by not acknowledging the favoritism. My father nodded slowly. You're right. It was easier to pretend everything was fine. As for me, I continued, I've played my part too. I've accepted the role of the responsible one without question. I've kept my resentment inside instead of addressing it directly. I've allowed these dynamics to continue. What do you want from us, Olivia? My mother asked. Honesty, respect, a recognition that things need to change if we're going to move forward as a family. We want that too, my father said. I took James's hand for support before continuing. I've made a decision about my wedding fund. The tension in the room became palpable. I'm going to give you $25,000, I said. Not the full amount, because James and I still need to plan our wedding, but enough to help with your immediate financial crisis. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Olivia, we can't accept. Let me finish. I interrupted gently. This isn't a gift. It's a loan with terms. I handed each of them a document. I've drawn up a repayment agreement. 5 years, with minimal interest. But there are conditions. What conditions? My father asked, scanning the document. First, Mom continues with her treatment program and attends Gamblers Anonymous meetings regularly. Second, both of you attend family therapy with me and Melissa. Third, complete financial transparency. I want monthly updates on your progress paying down debt. That seems more than fair, my father said. There's one more thing. I added, I need all of you to respect my boundaries moving forward. That means no more manipulation, no more guilt trips, no more expectations that I'll sacrifice my needs or others. We can do that, Melissa said quickly. It won't be easy, I cautioned. These patterns are deeply ingrained. We'll all mess up sometimes, but we need to commit to trying. My mother, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. Why would you help us after what I did? After how I've treated you? Because you're my family, I said simply. Because despite everything, I love you. And because I believe people can change if they're willing to do the work. We don't deserve your kindness, she whispered. This isn't just kindness. It's also self-preservation. I'm setting clear boundaries to protect myself, while also extending compassion. The two aren't mutually exclusive. James, who had been silently supportive throughout, spoke up. Olivia and I want our wedding day to be joyful, with her whole family present and genuinely happy for us. That can only happen if we address these issues now. My father stood up, document in hand. We accept your terms, Olivia, and we're grateful not just for financial help, but for this chance to heal our family. One by one, they signed the agreement. It wasn't a magical solution. There would be hard days ahead, setbacks and old habits resurfacing. But it was a start, a commitment to something better. After they left, James pulled me into an embrace. I'm so proud of you. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, I admitted, but it feels right. For the first time in a long time, I feel like we might actually become the family I've always wanted us to be. And our wedding, he asked, it'll be different than we planned. Smaller maybe, with some compromises, but in a way more meaningful. Because it won't just be celebrating our union, it'll be celebrating healing. 1 year later, I stood in a small room at the back of the historic building we had managed to keep as our venue, though we'd scaled back many other aspects of our wedding. My father knocked softly before entering. "It's time," he said, his eyes widening as he took in my appearance. "Oh, Olivia, you look beautiful." The dress wasn't a designer gown I had originally chosen, but a lovely vintage-inspired one I had found at a fraction of the cost. What it lacked in extravagance, it made up for in meaning. I had added lace from my grandmother's wedding veil to the hem. "How's Mom doing?" I asked as he helped me with my pearl necklace, another family heirloom. "Nervous, but good. She hasn't missed a meeting in 10 months now, and she wanted me to give you this." He handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. "Olivia, on your wedding day, I want you to know how proud I am to be your mother. Your compassion and strength saved our family when we didn't deserve saving. I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of your forgiveness. With all my love, Mom." Tears threatened to ruin my carefully applied makeup. "She's really changing, isn't she?" "We all are," my father replied. "Those family therapy sessions have been eye-opening. Your mother and I are communicating better than we have in decades." As my father walked me down the aisle toward James, I saw my mother and Melissa sitting in the front row. My mother's smile was genuine, her eyes clear and present in a way they hadn't been in years. Beside her, Melissa gave me a thumbs up, mouthing, "You're gorgeous." Our wedding wasn't the lavish affair we had once envisioned. We had fewer guests, simpler decorations, a buffet instead of a sit-down dinner. But looking around at the faces of the people we truly cared about, I knew we hadn't sacrificed anything that mattered. After the ceremony, during the reception, my mother approached me while James was chatting with his family. "May I have this dance?" she asked hesitantly. As we swayed to the music, she said, "I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you something important." "What is it?" "I made my first loan repayment yesterday, ahead of schedule." Pride swelled in my chest. "That's wonderful, Mom. It's a small step, but I want you to know I'm committed to making things right. Not just financially, but in our relationship, too. I know you are. I see how hard you're working." She looked around at the reception. "This turned out beautifully, even with the changes." "Sometimes the best things come from adjusting our expectations," I replied, "from focusing on what truly matters." Over her shoulder, I caught James's eye across the room. He smiled at me, that same warm, genuine smile that had first captured my heart. In that moment, surrounded by healing relationships and authentic love, I felt a contentment deeper than any I had known before. The slap at my engagement party had been a painful turning point, but it had ultimately led to transformation, not just for me, but for my entire family. Sometimes the worst moments become catalysts for the most profound growth, if we have the courage to face the truth and do the difficult work of healing. As the music ended, my mother hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not giving up on us," she whispered. "Family doesn't give up on family," I replied, "even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." And in that truth hard won and painfully earned, I found the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that love, when tested and tempered by honesty and boundaries, emerges stronger and more genuine than before.